Good afternoon. My name is. My name is Pomeroy. I am representing the first group, your development company, who's going to your project. Tonight, I'm just going to just go over what we're doing, and go over the short presentation, and then after that, we're going to listen to the comments. Other comments. We're going to start now. We're going to start with location. Essentially, this property, our project consists of two lots, 1530 and 1540 Pomeroy Avenue. The property is located on the west side of Pomeroy Avenue, just south of Area. It is about 2 lots south of Area. It's there's a Seas Candy on the corner, and then there's that little market behind it, and then it's the surrounding uses in this area is a mix of uses. We've got several commercial shopping centers, and there's to the east, there's a shopping center, the old shopping center that was all the way around El Camino, and then there's on the north side, again, it's the little market and the Seas Candy. On the west side, on 1540, it's a parking lot. On 1530, it's the there's a couple of single family homes, one to the back and one to this side. And then also there's an apartment complex right across the street. Regarding the background, I'm sorry, is there anybody who can make that a little larger? Sorry, it's hard to see. Mine is 43, so.
Can you make it bigger on your screen?
Mine is full screen.
Yeah, I have to do it because that should be that.
Okay. Yeah.
Stuff on the top. Okay, it's better. A little background regarding this development. In 2021, we had an approval for an 8-unit project, which consists of 6 units, same as what we're proposing under 1540, and then there was 2 single families on 1530. Once we got an approval, we went through the building permit process, final maps and all, and in 2024, Public Works Department was ready to schedule a project map before the city council for approval and then for recordation. And unfortunately, they let us know that our planning permit has expired. So we have to restart, rewrite everything all over again. Now, when we were talking to the planning department, planning division regarding the new application we have to file, essentially they told us that we no longer can come back with 8 units. People have actually liked that because everything is ready to go. So, they said that apparently because there was a change of density on the property, one of the property, which is 1530, we can no longer develop it, at that density, which was 2 units. We had to increase essentially the minimum unit, the densities for those plots are 20 to 36 units per acre. So we have to come back and essentially redesign the building on 1530 to comply with the minimum density requirement. And this is of course due to the requirements of Housing Accountability Act that allows to go below that minimum density. Our proposal essentially is 11 units in 2 buildings. The floor plans range from 1750, which are the units on 1530, the lower part of the screen. Those are about 1750. They're 3 bedrooms, 1 bedroom on the ground level, which is going to be handicap accessible, and then 2 bedrooms on the 3rd floor. The middle of the unit, the 2nd floor, is a living room and also a kitchen. Now, the other types of floor plans are on 1540. They're about 1970. They're a little larger. Same setup. There is a handicap accessible room with a bathroom downstairs on the 1st floor. 2nd floor is the living room and dining room area, and then the 3rd floor are 2 bedrooms with 2 bathrooms upstairs. Few things that we kind of kept in mind when we were designing 1540. I'm sorry, 1530, the lower part. Because we are adjacent to single family, especially one in the back, we kept the buildings about 42 feet away from their rear property. That just to give them, as much distance as we can. We kept this building at 5 units, so we can have that distance away from their back property line. With regard to the setbacks, we meet or exceed actually all of the setback requirements. Regarding the height, we meet the height requirements, and regarding the parking spaces, we actually have 3 additional parking that is required, more than what is required. As far as the density, we are at the lower end of the density requirement, and also we are proposing a below market rate units in this development. As far as the architecture, essentially this architecture is kind of a model, contemporary design. We used a mixture of horizontal siding and batten board to give it some variety, variations. We also used change in planes of the facade of the building, so there's lots of ins and outs. So you don't see a flat, usually a flat wall. We also used window trims, belly bands around the buildings, so we'll just sort of break up that facade. What you see, there you see 2 elevations. One is there would be a north elevation facing the driveway, and then the lower one is the front elevation. That's what you see from the street. Also, these 2 other elevations, for 1530, the ones. This is the south elevation, and the same thing. We use the 3rd floor setback, and also different planes again, dormers to kind of break up the facade of the building. We also use the same bedding bands, windows around the turns, and also divided pane windows to kind of provide some interest. On 1540, this is the dot closest to the El Camino. Again, we use the same horizontal siding and also batten boards to create interest in the facade of the building. Also, we have some setbacks, some pop-outs to kind of provide some interest, maybe provide the kind of a change in the plane of the building, so you don't see one flat wall. The lower elevation, that is front elevation, that's what you see from the street. As far as the again, these are the south elevations and rear elevation. The south elevation of 1540, this is the one that faces the driveway. We essentially use the same techniques, different siding, different divided pane windows, trim, window trims, and to kind of provide some interest. And then finally, the last technique, we use some landscaping to get it high enough. Somehow. Since we used mature trees along the sides of the properties to provide some buffers between our project and both commercial in the front and north side, and also residential in the back and side. And also we provided large size shrubs and also the variety of drought tolerant plants to enhance the livability essentially of this project. This kind of conclude my presentation. If you have any questions. There are two general floor plans. On 1540, which is on the north side, this is the, can you see this one right here? They're about 1970. There's 3 bedroom, 3 bath. There's a handicap accessible bedroom on the first floor behind the garage, and then 2 bedrooms on the third floor. It totals about 1790. And then on 1530, there's smaller units. Again, they also have, I'm sorry, let me bring this back. This is this building here. They also have an handicap accessible bedroom and a bathroom on the first floor, and then 2 bedrooms on the third floor, and then the middle one. Very good. Oh, 1750. 1750.
Question, you asked about, you mentioned, excuse me, I'll just pass the microphone around so that, because we are recording it. I have a question. You said that you were meeting various density requirements and so on. Is that a requirement of state law, or is that a local law?
Station, yes. We are at the bottom density range. We can't go any lower than that.
But you mentioned something about parking, because that's one thing I was concerned about. You said it looks like all the garages are 1-car garages.
Yes.
And then you have some extra spaces. It just seems that if there are 3 bedroom units, the chances are that there's going to be at least 10 cars probably in each unit, right? For each household. So, and there aren't enough spaces for that. So I guess that would be my opinion.
The parking requirements, and maybe we should answer that better, is one on the lower building. It's 1.5 unit, 1.5 space per unit.
That's what it's required.
Yes, so we provided one as a cover, and then we provided some as a.
Just seems as though people will end up having to park quite a lot on the main street, if there is space. The other thing is you also said something about affordable or what fraction, is that a requirement as well?
Yes, there's a requirement, we are providing a below market rate. That's, you know, to
Will that just be one of the units or?
one of them,
Just one of the
yes.
units? Do you want to clarify about the 44 Pomeroy has two corridors?
Yes, I'm sorry. 1540 has two, the top one has two parking. Yes, sorry. It's just, yes, the top one has a two parking garage and the bottom has one. They're smaller units.
There's still 3 bedrooms, but they're smaller.
Yeah.
And then there's 5 surface parking.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I just wanted to talk more about the architecture. I'm a little disappointed that it's townhouses, and usually townhouses, a great example of townhouses or attached houses would be row houses that you see in different parts of the country. And this feels more monolithic to me, as I'm asking. I know you've done little things here. I'm an architect, so I understand what's going on here, but usually townhouses, you have the defined vertical elements that carry down and say that defines unit 1, from unit 2, from unit 3, unit 4. Here, I call it more, I call it collage architecture, which has elements of different siding patched in here or there, and some roof lines and stuff, but there's no cohesive identification of an individual unit, which I would think from a homeowner's perspective, or that's more of a sense of place, having that individual unit. I'd like, so another not so great thing just for durability is that you have two roof lines coming down on each other. And back in the day when we had wood shingles, you would never do that because you wouldn't have good drainage. So for me, it's sort of a false sense of we can do it now because you use a cricket and asphalt shingles, but it's not a great form because it's a poor draining situation. So I would rather see more cohesiveness of this as an individual. This elevation isn't bad, but they're all the same. This looks like one unit, but it's, some of the other elevations aren't as good, but it seems like it'd be cleaner to define them a little bit more. And you're also striping them this way and defining the horizontal line, but I think the verticality as an individual unit is more important to define that and not have these lines sometimes. So, because that carries all the way across and it's like, it feels podium-like. But if you look at brownstones, and they carried all the way down. They didn't do this kind of stuff. They were just strong element and windows aligned, right? This window doesn't align. So that gives a vertical unity. And this is sort of scattered horizontally and sort of, it's as if this is a structural beam and you can do whatever you want. But when you have vertical unity in it, you know, these align and you have this vertical element, that's one unit, you're breaking it up better then. Because sure, you could throw different colors on this, but I still think they're not vertically designed. So that, could you go to the other elevation, maybe, this one, because the street, well, this one in particular, nothing aligns.
Sorry.
Yeah, this one, nothing aligns on the whole thing. So I feel like here's a cake, here's a layer, and here's a layer, but they don't align vertically. And again, defining the units, so then it feels like an apartment complex to me more so. But vertical units, are these for sale or are these for rental?
For sale.
For sale. So if I was to buy something, I would want visual unity vertically to say that's my place, but these are all feel connected to me because this line carries all the way through. These don't, you know, I don't even know if there's a porch per se, a decent porch to announce, you know, hey, this is the entry. I see a door there, but let's go to the street view because that one's obviously important. You know,
Sorry.
yeah. I mean, the thing that comes to mind that is really weird is you have a cantilever here, and then it cantilevers even more there. And it's just an imbalance, like I feel like this whole thing is going like that. And I'm sorry, I'm being very pinpointed with my comments, but being an architect and having sat in
It's not off course.
architectural committee before, I've had a lot of experience with this, but I would encourage you to try to define these things a little more traditionally. I know you're saying it's modern, but I don't know what's modern about this necessarily. Board and batten siding is typically part of the ranch and barn era. I know a lot of people are doing that now, but I wouldn't consider that modern necessarily. So, yeah. So, you know, I just feel like even these are so small, these little entry porches. Usually you want to create a little better proportion, but again, I'm seeing this horizontal and breaking up the vertical, and so, anyway, that's probably enough comments for me.
It's just, regarding those porches, we just can try to match the size to the other side. If you see, it's just gonna try to balance that out, with the porch, so.
Yeah.
That's.
It's just so narrow. I mean, it feels like you're going into a little utility access. You know, porch usually is a porch is a place to hang out. Yeah, that's not a place to. That's on.
Hello.
Yes.
My name's Tom. I want to say that I agree with 100%, I just don't understand. The thing, can you show some of the other elevations? I'll just add to what you said. I can't really do any better. I'm very upset. This looks very busy. I suggest you go and look at Pomeroy Green or Pomeroy West and look at a mid-century modern design, because it's regulated. They're just opposite mirror images, and it's very readable. You can say there's party walls that extend out to define each unit. Totally agree with you. This is confused. It's not pleasant to look at. I think this was designed from the inside out, which is commendable, because you're trying to maximize the interior space. But the problem is you lost the architecture that everybody has to live with. Also, before I comment more on what it looks like, what is the maximum density for this zone?
36 units. 36 units.
Okay, and you have,
20.
okay, why can't we, as a city and as a resident here, I would like to see the maximum density, because you are right next to the bus line, the 22 and the 300 express, which is the most frequently run in the valley. And it's within half a minute to walk to the bus stop at the northeast corner of Pomeroy and El Camino. This should be denser. And if you look at some of the projects along El Camino Real, they are denser. And they've got a parking garage underneath. I would rather see everything put up, either submerge the parking like they do in Palo Alto that I've seen, put it underground, put a lot of parking underground and do denser, put a platform and build your wood frames up. They're doing, you can go up El Camino and see that everywhere. I think that would look better here than this. This seems squished in and the architecture is very unpleasant. It's very confused. The architects that spoke earlier, I mean, there's just no unity. You can't see the individual units. You try to unify the whole building, but it just doesn't work here. If this were one building, I would go with some of the elements you have here. And I would call it, with the window patterns and the muttons, the divisions in the glass, it's more like craftsman style that you see up in Berkeley, those big rambling wood frame things. It'd be more appropriate. But this just doesn't work like this. You know, if this were an institute for higher learning or something with one big entrance in it, with all this confusion, it'd be fine. But not for home. It doesn't read like home. It reads like a big something. And I can't figure it out. Can you show one of the other elevations? There's one that in particular. That one, wow. I'm assuming there's a, you know, if you can identify where the splits are, some of these architectural elements don't make, I'll give you, here's a good example. If you can rotate it down just a little bit, like a reach. Perfect. Here, look at this element. You're trying to tie the two together, right? But they're actually two separate entrances, right? Why? Why? Doesn't make sense. You take that away, it would look better. It's so fussy. It's a fussy elevation. And, you know, I walk in the neighborhood and I'd rather not look at this. I think you could do better and save money. I think if you get somebody that's actually knows architecture really well, and a lot of these, you know, there's different architects, obviously, but the fellow that did this I don't know what he was thinking, because it just doesn't fit any, even contemporary styles that I see in the city. They at least try to make each unit separate. So this element doesn't make any sense to me at all. It looks like this should be, the entrance should be right here, you know? If you can go to the elevation, I want to echo some of the things the architect said. Your front elevation. Yeah, that one's a little better. You see some symmetry there, that's probably better. You know, why is this not exactly symmetrical? You know, it's more like the architect said, it's more like a barn. A barn is where the farmer puts up the barn and he's got limited materials and everything, and he just sets it together. But in this case, it's not a barn. So I don't know how you call this contemporary. It's a mix of a barn or something else, or the most charitable thing I can say about it is that it would be craftsman style. Okay, let me see the other elevation. Front elevation. That really is, it's amazing that there's so many windows.
This is the one that we looked at already.
No, yeah, I want to see the other front.
This is the,
No,
this
the
is the
front,
elevation that faces
the front elevation.
the front elevation is the one that we actually saw.
Or the street,
No, there's-
street element.
That's the one. It is.
No, there's another one. There's two. This is one of them, and there's another one, right?
You're talking about for the other one?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't agree with the architect more on this. This just cantilever on cantilever, it just reads funny. And what's going on here? Why have two types of fighting right in here? Why?
Sure,
Yeah, please.
because we're trying to break out essentially that facade, and also if you look above it, there are windows. So it's a continuation of those windows, and those windows are actually in the staircase.
Yeah, no,
Staircase windows.
it looked better without. Just fill it in. It just looks contrived. I hope that's the right word, contrived. This little thing, we have a few of these in town with these little entrances, and you try to emphasize it like this, they look horrible. They look tacked on. They look like the entrance to an outhouse. That's what it looks like to me. It's really disconcerting. You need to do something with that, either make it bigger, put a deck in there, something to emphasize, make that bigger. It looks horrible. It looks cheap. You know, compared to the rest, the magnitude of this project, that looks really cheap as an entry. How far does that extend over the door? This one?
Yeah, I think it's about 4 or 5 feet.
Well, that would look wrong too. Now, I would expect it to be very short. Now, if it's 4 or 5 feet without a column or a post, it's gonna look really strange.
Actually, the porch itself is recessed in, so if you look at the one above,
Can you show it?
this is the
So it's,
So it's actually just, you're right, it's only,
that's what I
the
thought.
porch is 4 or 5 feet, but this element here is probably about 18 inches.
Is the door on this plane
Door spacing
or is it over here?
was there, right where your hand is.
The door is
Right
here,
there.
so it's recessed.
Yes.
Is that right? Then why that element?
Because we were trying to match, and if you look at the other, look at this one. We have this, rather than having everything all horizontal,
Yeah.
we're trying to provide some breaks in the view of that building and, try to kind of, make it somewhat symmetric, design.
Not, it doesn't read that way. I see, you know, you've got the upper frame lined up, that's good, probably 6, 8, 7 feet, that's good, but it just looks tacked on. The roof, it's way too complicated, why? You don't need to do that, I totally agree.
Which roof you're talking about?
Well, yeah, you could come down,
This is
yeah,
actually
you can look-
pretty straightforward, bro. I don't think we could do it any simpler than that. You're talking about the dormers?
yeah. Well, I don't call those dormers, a dormer is when you take a roof, you have a flat roof, a gable, and you lift part of it up. That's a dormer. These are just projections. Okay, I think I'm right on that. Thank you. The architect said it. Can you go up a little bit? Okay. Yeah, and let's see the whole thing from the ground. Can we see the whole thing? Yeah, yeah, good. Yeah, I don't know where to start. It looks very confused. You know, the whole thing would look better. It's just go across the whole building. I think the architect might agree with me and define these units with a vertical element only. And just leave the roof, run it free, make it a gable roof, right? Gable, straight across, or hip, put the hips on the ends and make it one continuous roof. You're gonna save money. It's gonna be easier to maintain it and it's gonna look better. You're trying to add what you think is adding value to the building by doing all these convoluted ins, outs, breaking it up. I don't think it works. I think it'd be better to go simple. It's gonna make it, when the people own this thing, when they realize that they've gotta maintain it, the roof is gonna be much simpler to do instead of doing all these gables. And if they gotta put crickets in it and all that stuff, oh my gosh, you know what a cricket is? It's where you build up the area in that
Yes,
valley.
I hope so.
Okay, I don't know.
We've been doing that this about.
Yeah, and maybe some people in the audience don't know. It's a piece of plywood usually or some other wood element. And you slope the valley that's right there, so the water will flood off the roof. You don't show the downspouts on all this. You're not showing the downspouts. It's gonna be amazing downspouts on
Downspout's gonna go right where, I mean, you'll see between the two pop outs.
They're gonna come down here, here.
Yeah.
What about here, down off this roof?
They'll come out on a corner, so
Well, it's so busy. I would suggest you just do a hip roof, get rid of all these projecting gables. Simplify that roof. It's gonna be better, more attractive to purchasers than this, because this is just a maintenance nightmare. I don't know, you need to clean up all these different, you've got vertical and horizontal elements on the siding. That, by the way, what type of siding?
I'm sorry,
What type of siding? What,
it's a wood siding.
Wood siding? It's lap,
Lap siding.
lap siding? Well, you have some vertical, how about the vertical?
This is backboard,
Wait,
back and board.
back board?
Yes. You know, we did mix the horizontal vertical,
Yeah,
because these are 3-story buildings. We want to just kind of break that tallness section. I mean, that's one of the reasons that we combine vertical horizontal. That's why you see that we use them as an accent. So kind of, you know, otherwise, if we just use batten and board, for example, it's gonna look much taller than the building that the building is.
yeah. Well,
So
I
we
respect,
kind of did that.
I respectfully disagree. I think it looks confused. You've got horizontal, forward and back, and you've got lap shift, this going this way. It should be uniform. You need to straighten up your windows and then make the units read somehow. So it's clear on who owns what. You know, if you ask maintenance guys to come in here and, you know, clean the siding or look at the roof in a certain spot, this is a problem. I've lived in my unit in Pomeroy Green for like 20 years, and the maintenance men, you know, they need a complete description of where to go. This is very confusing to me. Anyway, and I don't want to be so, you're not alone. I've seen these pop up everywhere, and that's why I'm here tonight. Hopefully get this better. So just in summary, I would rather see a much denser complex underground parking or parking on the ground complete and maximize the number of units and make a very simple structure on top. I think that would be the best way to go. How high can you go?
So
How tall can you go?
36 at the highest.
36. So that if you did put parking on the ground floor, it has to be underground, right?
Yes, and I think one of the issues is that we essentially try to be you know, we would love to have more units, maximum units, of course, as you know, the
Yeah.
developers like to do that. But then we were trying to be a buffer between what the single families are,
Yeah.
just next door.
Yeah.
And what the commercials. So eventually, when that little store and the Seas Candy developed and the lots next to it, they're gonna be that large. And they're going to be, you know, have maybe a underground parking with maximum number of units. But we did not feel that is appropriate because we're trying to also be mindful of the single families that are next to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can stack them up and put, you know, a whole bunch of units there, but I really not think that's appropriate. And I think maybe staff also agrees with us that that probably is not something that, you know, we.
I have a solution for you. I'm trying to think, it's for this, say you cross the expressway and the next street, wood dust turns into. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, there's a two-story, I used to live in it, two-story, apartment complex, very simple, lived there for decades. And they just built some three or four story stuff. You might want to consider is next to the single story is put something lower, one story above, two-story. And then as you get away, this might get you more density, is when you're near the single family detached, only go two-story. And then step it back and go three. And that's what they did on, I forgot the name of the street, but anyway, I've seen that around town, very sensitive design, it's 4 stories tall, if I remember right. But when they're near the two-story, they're about 3, and I set back and then they go up again. So I think something like that would be better than what I'm seeing here. So anyway, those are my comments.
And I would like the 11 house going from 2 families to 11 families. And days, and then all the traffic that it causes in that particular area, and trees, foliage, our air, the trees clean our air. In my car. I know, you know, we're taking out commercial spaces. But the property taxes or it's the motivation.
Keep speaking down a little bit, so, yes, correct, housing shortage, the state is asking cities to build more housing. In this particular case, I can't tell you like how often that happens, but in this particular case, the two houses were constructed before our zoning code was adopted, and the two properties are zoned for multi-family, the one on 50/50, the general plan envisioned it to be a higher density parcel. Yeah, I think, yeah, probably these houses, I cannot remember exactly. The other parcel on 1540 is actually community mixed use, which means it can be constructed with a mix of residential and commercial. So this development, both the parcels allow a residential density of 20 to 30 units per acre. Each parcel? No, it's per acre, so I think each parcel is about a quarter acre, but it's short of a quarter acre. So if we do the math, that's that would be the maximum, to your point, so they are kind of related to the lower end. 30 units per acre.
36.
I'm sorry, 36, but thank you for that.
30 minutes for this time.
20 to 36 units per acre, sorry for that. Right, so each project when it comes, it is in conformance with our general plan and zoning, that's what we go. So general plan is the long-term vision of the city, and so, planning staff is here to implement that vision. So that, and then we just review the project based on the laws that are in place. The vision.
And if I understood correctly, said at the beginning that earlier plan laws had just planned to have 2 single family homes, and it was not allowed because it's no longer allowed, it's not dense enough.
Yeah, the density of that property was changed, I think maybe in the initial, like, the density was changed from 18 unit per acre to 20 to 36 unit per acre. So it was upzoned, and we would have been really honest, we were shocked when we find out that our permits expired, because we were ready. We would have been 3/4 done by the time. And we would have loved to go back with the same project, because everything was ready to go. Now we have to go back and, we're working at this at least 6, 8 months, maybe more because.
When was your first plan?
So our general plan was always, the general plan always envisioned 1530 to be a medium density parcel, and then the parcel on 1540 was always envisioned to be a community mixed use. Back then, the earlier application came in, they actually utilized the state law, AB 3194, because our zoning and general plan were not matching. So to amend that, the city, we adopted a new zoning code, updated our zoning code last year in August. And for that, what we did is we changed the zoning to match the general plan, which is the long-term vision of the city. So,
Well, let me bring the site plan. I'm gonna talk a little loud. So, yes, there is actually small, there's an area. If you look at right behind the parking right here, this is a big area. Essentially, we use it to essentially put a barbecue and we're putting benches and stuff. So it's more like a recreation. It's a small area, but that's, in addition, the city will require us to contribute, to, the Louis Park, Louis, which is like around $207,000 for this project, for the citywide park. For the two, essentially, to citywide park fund. So they can create more parks and maintain parks. So we not only we providing this little small area for the resident immediate and recreation, but also we're contributing the park fee to the city's fund. And so they will create other parks, other places, maintain existing parks. There's a couple of parks actually not far away.
I have a couple of comments. Apologize for being late. I didn't know it was going to be this kind of heavy, but I was coming from Palo Alto. And the second thing is, I didn't know it was going to be this technical format, so sorry if I asked questions that I didn't answer. So I came because I live in that area and received the notice. And what really and truly concerns me is, will you do this to the house next door to me and that me? And what is protecting my home from having 22 units put next to it? I think I can say the lots are significantly smaller, so I don't think you would have that capability, but I don't know. So, and I haven't researched the master plan on El Camino to see how far back it goes, because this is truly off of El Camino. We're talking about property, not El Camino. And I missed the point about Seas Canyon. Have you already purchased that property?
No, what I was referring to is in the future, if it develops. Actually, years ago, we were looking at, actually, we talked to them and they said they want to sell. It would have made sense if there's a whole corner. And, when we purchased the property, we could have developed like 3 units on 1530. But we wanted to make something a little more comprehensive rather than just little development there. So we waited for the next door neighbor, but it became our partner who we sell. So we did a partnership with him to do a little larger, more comprehensive plan rather than full,
Is this the grocery store there, or is this the house?
It's the house next to the grocery store. It's the grocery store next to.
Okay, just a comment about housing shortages. I wish the city could address Airbnbs. Because I truly believe they're at the basis of the housing shortage. Number of Airbnbs around here. So is this property considered part of the master plan? For El Camino master plan? Or is it outside of that?
As far as I understand, it is outside of that, but at least 1530 is outside of that. Double check. However, the community specific plan is not yet adopted, so we are not necessarily, we cannot implement the regulations or what is in place in the community plan to this, but what we are implementing is what's the general plan and the zoning for this function.
Okay, so I lived in Sunnyvale 23 years ago when they developed a master plan for El Camino. And I thought Santa Clara was also part of that plan at the time. And it went up in the mountains. So they were trying to make El Camino one look. But you're saying that's not the case.
I apologize, I'm not familiar with that. It must have been a long time ago. We did start the input a few years ago,
and then there was direction from council, to whatever direction was received from council, the team was working on implementing that direction, and I think it's gonna go back this year to hearing again. El Camino to a specific time, but I'm not sure about the coordination between the cities. I'm not directly involved with that, and, but I can find out and I can take your information and let you know.
And then if there was no alternative to the plan going in, I was curious about parking units. Going down Pomeroy, due to the stores on the, if you're thinking from El Camino and turn down Pomeroy, that strip immediately opposite this is just always loaded with vehicles as it is. They have a little parking lot for trees and some of those places, and seats have its own, but the side always seems to be loaded with cars. And then if I had to pick how many parking lots I would pick per unit, and I know you have your numbers, I have to check them, but I think at least 3, because it seems like every household has 2 drivers. And then occasionally they invite guests, so I really don't know if we're gonna be on that. Let me see. Yeah, I guess that's my points right now. I'm just hopeful that one of these elements or housing developments doesn't show up on my street, my little street. I live on Warburton. It's busy.
I just wanted a couple of additional comments, so. And the other gentleman here mentioned it, I feel like if you look at architecturally, you first start designing from the inside out. But I constantly go back and forth about the architecture, actually the form reads well. And I don't think there's been enough effort on this to go back and forth between the two to get good building form here. You talk about dormers, if I was to design something that had dormers, I would do a very steep pitch roof on the upper floor, so it's a live-in attic or a live-in roof. I live in a house built in 159 years ago that has that very kind of thing. It has half-height walls on the upper floor, 12 and 12 pitch, and then it has dormers in there. And it's a great thing. Then I can see doing more than that, because that's sometimes the style that was done back then. But it's I think defining these units, there are 3 stories, and vertically defining them, meaning they all seem like, what's my house, right? It's a vertical unit. You don't need to do all the horizontal stuff. Sometimes you can do that. You can do bay windows and other ways to articulate. But the fact that nothing aligns on most of these elevations, the other gentleman said it's kind of overwhelming or it's confusing. And so brownstones were done all throughout the country. But Brooklyn has a lot, and in Boston, they're simple. They're very simple facades, but they're defined from one unit to the next. But they're elegant. Simple but elegant. And so I encourage some more massaging on the architecture, because that's what this meeting is about. The last thing I want to say is dwelling units per acre doesn't factor in size. So I know it's a performance thing, and you got your mark, and I don't, these are large units, that's fine. But you could also do smaller units and more units, right? How you slice and dice it, but my big thing is architecture, being an architect. Defining out, someone comes, they buy this thing, and they come home and they see it, and they go, that's my unit. It's not necessarily, it's the red, green, the blue one, but it has a unique identity that's subtle, can be subtle, but distinctive from each neighboring unit. So I'd like to see more work done on the form architecture. I think recall, I've seen some that are along there, but again, that exceeded. Yeah.
Maybe that could be.
We'll take your comment, I think, and then we will give opportunity to the people who are joining online, to speak as well.
Last speaker said, and architect said, absolutely agree with her 100%. And let me clarify this, how do you allow this project to do something?
So at 36,
I don't want the acre. How many acres is this project?
so,
I understand.
36 divided by 4 is 9, right? So it could be 9 units on each of those.
So 18 total. Okay. So the other figure should get earlier, but,
So it's not only about the number of units, but they also have to meet the setback, height, like, so all of that has to factor in also. Correct? You know, parking.
18%. How many do you have? That's left. Yeah, so it seems to me that the developer could provide the extra units. As the architect mentioned, these are pretty big, you can make them a little smaller. I live in, the units are 1,540 feet, so you could, and I built plenty big. I've been in others, some of these newer ones are smaller. So I think you could get more on there. Now, the argument with that, it's a good point. Maybe the argument that goes on is, would you make the roof to be required different mindset on the design? Why not make the roof a playground? There's a famous building, Unity, the habitation by Le Corbusier in France, and he made the top of the building a playground for young kids. It's very safe, it's traffic, you can have it up there and increase the number of units and have everyone. Also, can you put up the slide for the playground? Yeah, how big? What's the dimension here between the parking, the building, and that's 1,000 square feet, it's like 30 by 30, right? It's gonna be, and you got bike racks in there, that's gonna be very small barbecue area, because as you know, by the city ordinances, you must have at least 10 feet away from any combustibles. That's in our city ordinances, I think it's still there. It's gonna be a tiny place to get any picnic tables in there and a barbecue. This is very tiny. I'm glad you have something, but, you know, I'm thinking, you know, move the building, make it 2-story, fill that space up, go up to the roof, build a playground on the roof. Have a flat roof, it'd have to be a modern design, it couldn't be this contemporary, unless you put a mansard, a fake mansard around the perimeter, you could do that. Like our emergency operations center in town has a fake mansard, goes around the perimeter, so it looks like a French mansard, but it's got a flat roof. So that's another idea to get a playground. The closest playground, because I live in the neighborhood, would be the park. Carmichael, yeah, Earl Carmichael Park, which is all the way down to Benton, and then about a quarter mile to Earl Carmichael. That's the closest park. That's too far to just take your kids for a few minutes. That's an outing to get there, if you walk. Otherwise, you're driving. So we're near the El Camino Rail. I would like to hear the planner, the specific plan. It seems like this is so close. I mean, this is very close. I don't know why we can't have a reduction in automobiles. They do that at my brother's place in Mammoth Lakes, California. the city allows, less parking on a site if you're next to public transit like this. This is really close. You know, I live a quarter mile, I still take the bus. These people are within a minute or two of the bus stop. So I don't know if we could do that under this state program to get more housing, is to reduce the parking, get more units. And, I'm thinking you have to get 2 for each, no, you've got it down to 1 and some.
Yes.
Okay,
One
well,
point five.
okay,
It's
1.5,
spaces per unit
okay.
for a 3 bedroom.
Okay, well, let's go whole hog on that. Let's get it 1.5 on all of them and get some more space for living. Because that's the new world that we're gonna live in, you know, and with the climate change coming and the transportation costs getting so expensive. We're gonna always say, El Camino Rail is always gonna be here. It's the most historic road in the valley. They'll always run buses down there. There's a lot of employment centers that you can get to. The El Camino Rail takes you to the train station, which you know is right over here. The Delta might not know any of this. We have very good convenient transportation here. So let's reduce the number of cars because we're so close to all these facilities and all paid for. You know, and let's get some more housing. So we have, you know, to get rid of our housing problem. We could easily add many more units here.
Cost, of the most projects to some of the PDF plan, transportation demand management. That's kind of like, we're starting to track as the project gets built and it's been in place for a year. We ask for a report back, but it's starting to gather that kind of data. I'm not 100% sure if you would have like some data to kind of use and like use as statistics. Yes, that's the, yes.
Right, because I can see, you know, extra car being parked on your street, right? Because they took us. They don't rent out spaces. And they don't rent out. Four cars, where you don't have a seat.
As you know, Pomeroy is very wide, south of the front, and then narrow, just along the front, there's a dog. How we're not widening the road at this time? We should be. We should be widening those, to connect the wider one, if you need to south, and if there's something, you don't know. If you take up the good, you take up cyclists, we have a issue there because we have one flat, and that one, the south one. It's the widen, the favor, and, you take a look at parking, that, right, they always. I was not going to see that. But, me and my wife on the side, or figure out a way to try people. So we like to see it. So we've done that by the way. We took some land, we have some property on both that we get the license like on the license, we have the license in the city. And we did that all through by the fact, and they moved that back. And now it's like to say it on. You got it. Why not?
Appreciate your comment, yeah, I mean, definitely something for our, track vendors to look at.
Can we do that before we build that?
This project itself, I think, that's my understanding. This project, the scale of the project does not trigger that requirement, or you cannot put that on this development based on, but I can share your, comments with the traffic. But I think we should take the people who are joining online, give them an opportunity to talk or ask their questions. So if you are joining online, you can raise your hand or press *9 to raise your hand and ask your question. Five people online.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much for coming to our community and sharing your project and your ideas with us. Given the proximity to the transit on El Camino Real, I would encourage you to build to the maximum density and minimum parking spaces. We need density along the El Camino Real transit corridor. Thank you, that is all.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see any raised hands. Can you ask them to again raise their hand?
If anyone is interested to speak on Zoom, please raise your hand.
Small group, we can just allow them to talk and ask them if they wanted to speak. So we can start with Ron. We could just unmute them if they're not able to understand how to hear. Ron, you have, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Wait for Ron. Brian, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. On the list, Dave and Julie, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask a question if you have any. And then last is the phone number ending in 4836. If you have a question, you can unmute and ask a question. Hearing none, if you have more questions in the room, then
Yeah, I think, question regarding, whether or not, when you advise, or when, I think that might be encouraging people that are willing to take the UPA and not have multiple cars, is that something that you do?
So like I said, we do, have the projects on it, we do have a requirement for the, projects to submit a TDM plan.
Is that the responsibility of the building or?
Correct.
But
Yeah.
currently, homeowners that will be using them. Rather than having, or. Right, maybe to solve that, you know, that way you want to resolve it.
I think if we do suggest that, we would recommend that, and then also make sure we have added in the past. I think for this project also, we had added a condition the previous approval to keep the garages clear of storage so that they can use the parking. So that was one of the conditions that added as a part of the.
But is there a way of enforcing that? I mean, can you actually make the road do that?
So we do, it will be part of the HOA, so it will be part of the, so it will be one of the things that they will require.
Yeah, there's an apartment house called these garage house apartments, and the residents there park on Pomeroy, and they park on Liberton, and the auto stores like Fletchmore, when they take in cars, they park them all up and down on one, and there's already a lot of parking on the street. I don't know if people will be parking on this. And I think what's going on with the carriage house is kind of probably representative of what the vehicles that we have. Parking is allowed to provide.
In the same thing, as a city, hopefully requires, some sort of, parking, system, like they have in Berkeley, or, you know, that has problems. If we get rid of, so, if we get rid of, urge the auto repair. Because they still on the street. First, well, I think that's exactly, the auto repair is on the street. So that would beg the question that why does the city, if you start this project, is to have the permanent parking system for that stretch, you could find out, say, much less here. And so we look at vehicles from the auto repair station and overflow on speed. No, but the cities have a lot of parking. I listened to him for 20 years. I thought that was different times. Not just where the parking of speed, there has no way. And, you're but the city is parking. And the parking
I think it's been a good process, I mean, it has been done for some of the streets in the city, and, it's something that, I'm not entirely sure, it's not a process with the planning division, but it is a process with, probably streets or traffic, or maybe a combination, so, we can, figure that out, and, we can, let you know what's the process, but as far as I know.
I think we need to start doing that, because, you know, there's other things that start to go. We gotta change our mindset to this part here. And not make it so free. The second thing, now, I spent some time online, the project is not walking they are, the developer is giving a year pass to public transit in some complex, development. in the Los Angeles area. And reduce the apartment with 2 to 1.5 even lower. And they give developer files a year pass for everybody that's in the contract. And I thought that, yeah,
That's part of the TDM, transportation management strategies for projects. That's part of it.
Is that negotiated or is that a contract?
It's something that the developer can choose to provide, to reach a certain amount of like, what strategies we can, they can work with the city on like, and we can come up with a list that will be acceptable.
So we don't have that list here.
We're working on that.
So, yeah. Be nice to know that before it's been 2 months long. Yeah, I guess that would be my next question. Where are we in the process? Are we going to see on they revise the plans and have those,
We currently require one community meeting for, the project, and, we try to do it early on so that we have the chance to incorporate the comments. And then after the comments have been incorporated and the project has been reviewed to, the departments for the technical review by the departments. Once all that is clear, then the project will be scheduled for, in this case, development review.
and what?
So, if everything, it depends really on how soon they are able to address the comments, but maybe we are looking at a May timeframe. Or, it really depends on when the comments are addressed and like, when the plans are revised and so maybe that takes a lot of time. And women can answer on that.
At that point, does it go to another committee or to the city council or?
So the project is in conformance with the zoning and the general plan, so it just requires an architectural review. So it will go to the development review period. The developer is also proposing to, a condo map. The map will have to be approved at the planning commission and council.
So is this the architect or you right now? So we should address mostly just one thing.
I think they meant not to actually clarify. It's not.
It's a community meeting.
No, this is I see. No, right now, this application is for the architecture review. This is a community meeting to take the public feedback. Sorry about that.
It's still good, it's not.
Development review hearing is the.
That is the same thing for that.
I just want to ask, what was a hybrid community outreach meeting? That's what they were said. What was covered? Oh, hybrid.
It's still the interest on little part of the.
And then just the community.
One thing, for the affordable housing component, I think they said 1 unit.
Yes.
So is it 15%, so obviously 11, and 15 and 1.6. That's more than, so you wouldn't go up to 2 or.
So for the housing, ordinance, they are allowed to, they can choose to, provide the fractional unit in lieu fees. So it's not knocked down, but it's provided.
It's 1 unit times the.
So who do you see buying these units? And well,
No, the better question is, how much are these going to cost?
We don't know yet.
we have one person buying a 3-bedroom, we have one person buying a 3-bedroom and renting out the other 2 units, the singles or students. I mean, who do you see buying them, and then how much?
I don't know how much. It's all dependent with the way right now the economy is fine. I don't know, with all the, like issues with the stock market and tariffs and stuff, our business is very uncertain until the project comes to market. So we really don't put a price on, the units until we come to the market and see what the market bears. We are looking at these to be a starter home. Usually you're going to see, right now, new homes are very expensive. But as far as what price, I don't know. We won't be able to say until actually, the projects are ready for sale.
So, families or singles, renting other singles?
We won't discriminate.
No, I mean, who are you designing it for?
Well, I mean, there are people, one person who buys a three-bedroom and, families, so, we can't. I can't tell you whether we're gonna go and only sell it to families. First of all, it's discrimination.
Yeah.
And then secondly, it just, probably you're looking at the younger families who buy it. People like my age probably don't mind to go up the swing stairs. So.
Are these condominiums, are these condominiums, are they set up as condominiums or what?
They set up as.
Yeah, so you can choose an HOA and those rules there. So presumably the HOA would decide on things like whether how many people can rent or what fraction can rent out. Absolutely, for the HOA. Or not. Or not.
Living in a co-op, if you can also put limits on how many units one person can. Okay, I think that's my question. Just down the street, same place. Right. These are not part of the. It's not for, long time. Value residents. I couldn't.
So it says townhome units.
Yeah.
And I thought a townhome, well, I thought it doesn't matter, I think townhomes. What's the difference between a townhome and a farm?
No, a townhouse, yes, a townhouse is a type of physical arrangement where you have one unit, it goes to the stories. Okay, it's unlike having levels where you live on one level, third floor. So townhouse is usually connected, right, and several, at least 2 units, yeah, a unit that goes all the way. Now, the condo has to do with its organizing, the maintenance of the place, all the rules, the CCNRs. The rules have to do with.
So just whatever, is this a townhouse or a condo?
No, it's both. I'm trying to explain, they're two different things. The townhouse is the physical arrangement of the structure, and the condo is the rules that you live by. Rules on the board, what government picked up, what you can do and can't do in your unit. So, and who does the maintenance of the point of the wall? And I live with all the things.
But they're physically ground by, they're not.
I would say
So.
condos are apartments that are owned, that's kind of the simplest explanation.
Oh,
Right? They're built as apartments, but they're owned for sale.
Kind of homes that are attached to each other. Just imagine.
Up in there, and the condos with the apartments that have been changed.
What I'm trying to say is like they're bigger buildings and they're like more like apartment, they're organized in more like apartments, but there's ownership. Yeah. Instead of renting.
Usually apartments, you can have a simply first floor apartments, second floor, third floor, whatever. So those are apartments. Okay? A townhouse is a different physical, where usually it's on the ground. Goes up.
Yes.
And it's, you have at least 2 units, or you have a part of the wall, or they share a wall. So if it's detached, usually it's called a single family detached home. So that's the highest level of single family. I don't think we call that. So the condo is a perception of how you live there. So you can have all kinds of physical variation in condo.
Very much, for coming, really appreciate your comments, and, we'll get everything. I appreciate if you, sign in and look at probably you should like to. There's a sign for you, gives information, address, and contact information. Virtually.
My name is Nimisha. I can be down there. I will give you my information. I'll take that sign.
We want to.